Imagine a bee wandering around outside, landing on a flower, and even half an hour later, the same bee can return to that same flower branch. With so many flowers around, it can go straight back to the single branch it saw yesterday without deviating. This might seem simple, but it's not. It's the result of a map the bee has created in its mind. A map that records your entire garden, knowing where each flower is and when it blooms. What seems like an ordinary flight is actually the moment when a millions of years old memory architecture is at work. Today, perhaps while you sit at home, that bee outside will be returning to the hive, using its body to map out the best flower slope it found today and transmitting this information to other bees. A coordinate system that doesn't exist in your mind is currently being copied to other brains through vibrations in the darkness. Perhaps one of the most striking things is that even if the sun hides behind the clouds, that bee still knows and understands its location in the sky. Before we get to the video, I want you to subscribe because these little visitors in your garden operate with a much more complex mind than you might think. In fact, what I'll be talking about at the end of this video is how a bee's memory shapes the future of the hive. So I want you to stay until the end. If you're ready, we can start our video. 1. Bees have a garden memory. In the mind of a bee, there is a map that we cannot see. When a honeybee finds a flower, it records not only its scent and taste, but also the path to it. That is, by putting together the angle of the sun, the flight time, and the notable points it passes, it creates a usable route to return to its hive. Scientists call this a cognitive map. That is, a mental map that includes not only the individual points, but also the relative positions of those points to each other. In everyday terms, a bee can update a GPS of your garden in its brain in real time. One of the most surprising aspects of this map is that it is quite flexible and changeable. When a bee's usual route intersects with an obstacle, it doesn't get lost. What it keeps in its mind isn't just the route back and forth, but also how the surrounding locations relate to each other. That's why it can search for alternative routes. To give an example, it's like how we can reach the same house in a familiar neighborhood by taking a different route, even if the usual street is closed. And of course, during this completion process, the bee adds small corrections each time and estimates the distance a little better. So this means that every flower bed around the hive is recorded as an address in that tiny brain. Even if we don't realize it, that address becomes clearer every day. 2. Bee's memory strengthens through repetition. Of course, this memory isn't formed with a single flight, it's strengthened by repetition. When a bee goes to the same flower bed 2 or 3 times, it becomes more permanent in its brain. Just like we can find a place we go to frequently without thinking about it anymore. Everything is a little unclear on the first flight. Of course, the bee is more cautious, slower, and almost apprehensive. But when it goes to the same flower for the 3rd or 4th time, it becomes a habit. It can go straight ahead without deviating, as if its eyes were closed. Researchers say that honeybees can switch between short-term and long-term memory, meaning they can remember a significant amount of resources for days. This switching isn't random. The more productive a flower is, the faster and more permanently it becomes part of that memory. So, a priority system is established in a bee's mind. Rich resources go to a strong memory, while weak resources go to a weak memory. So, if you have familiar bees that constantly visit your garden, it's no coincidence. They know your flowers by heart. For your hive, this means a steady flow of food. The bee doesn't search from scratch each time. It goes directly to where it knows. Thanks to this permanent memory, a good resource found by a single bee remains a reliable food source for the hive for days, 3. They know the flower's time. Here's the thing. Bees remember not only where to go, but also when to go. Some flowers yield nectar early in the morning, others in the afternoon. Some only offer their richest nectar for a few hours, after which the source may almost dry up. Honeybees learn this timing and use it like an appointment book. They know that going to that flower at that time isn't a waste of time. Essentially, this is called time memory, matching the flower's opening rhythm with their own flight rhythm. This matching is so precise that biologists show that honeybees can lock onto a specific time, starting to leave the hive as that time approaches. It's like a silent alarm is ringing inside. The bee also uses the sun's position like a clock, so it doesn't lose its timing even on a cloudy day. Let's not forget that if bee traffic in your garden intensifies at certain times of the day, it's because the bees have learned the biological clock of your flowers. If you see a high volume of bees early in the morning, you probably have flowers that thrive in the morning. If you notice any activity in the afternoon, it means another type of activity has started at that time. Your garden operates according to a schedule you're unaware of. For bees, however, this is a daily routine they know by heart. 4. There is information carried to the hive. Here, I would especially like to say that the bee doesn't keep a good resource to itself. It returns to the hive and tells about it. This telling is not done with words, but with movement. By vibrating its body at a certain angle, it shows the other worker bees both the distance and the direction. In the scientific world, this behavior is called the wagging dance. That is, the bee, in the darkness of the hive, is essentially charting a route for the other bees. As you can understand, the longer and more active the dance, the more valuable the resource. A short, calm vibration is enough for a nearby flower hillside, but when a distant and especially rich resource is found, the dance is more intense and longer. The other bees follow this vibration in the dark, by touch and sound, then copy the same route into their memory and go out. Actually, there's also this truth. To put it in everyday language, the memory discovered by a single bee transforms into the shared knowledge of dozens of bees within hours. The reason why the number of bees visiting your garden's flower bed increases rapidly once it's discovered is this. The information spreads quickly within the hive. A discovery made by a single bee in the morning becomes the collective decision of the hive by the afternoon. 5. It's like a constantly updating compass. The most striking aspect is that the bee's map isn't a static picture, but an almost living system that updates itself with the sun. The bee records the direction of a flower according to the sun, but the sun is constantly moving across the sky. The sun, which is in the east in the morning, moves to the zenith towards noon and to the west towards evening. A fixed memory is useless here because the angle you used when going to the same flower in the morning will lead you in the completely wrong direction in the afternoon. As many of us might guess, bee scientists have discovered that honeybees can compensate for this movement, meaning that even if hours pass and the sun changes position, they can recalculate and find the same route. The bee has an internal clock in its mind. It knows where the sun should be at that hour and automatically corrects its route accordingly. Moreover, even when the sky is cloudy, it can figure out where the sun is using the polarization patterns of light. That is, it can read an invisible clue. Now, there's also this. That little mind in your hive isn't just a memory store. It carries a compass that constantly recalculates itself. Your garden never stays the same for it. It's redrawn with every hour, every change in light, and it can follow this change. When you go out into your garden in the afternoon, the bee you see has already abandoned its morning route, flying with a refreshed map, recalculated according to the sun's new position. Now, the critical point here is that that single bee, the one that turned towards the lavender, was actually a single node at the end of a memory network. The thousands of bees in the hive are currently working like an information network, carrying each other's discoveries. And that bee out there right now might find a new flower tomorrow that you haven't even noticed, and return to the hive this evening to add it to the map. Here's the truth. Let's go back to the question we asked at the beginning. How does a bee find that single rose it visited yesterday among the hundreds of flowers in your garden? Because for that bee, your garden is never random. Every flower is a coordinate, every visit a record, every flight a return. That afternoon silence you think is empty is actually a moment where millions of calculations are silently at work. You've been living with this for years. Now you know. Have you ever noticed the same bee returning to the same flower multiple times throughout the day in your garden? See you in the next video.